our buddy Stephen Brunt. We talked to him a few weeks ago. He is back with a project called Up Close. 6 episodes, just giving us a taste. You know what it is? We're going to get hooked on. That's going to be, damn it, the 6 are gone already.
Summer hasn't even started, and it's already.
I know. And you know what? As you know, I years ago, I was big time into wrestling as a kid. Then kind of got away from it. And then the last few years, I've been sucked back in again. I've been going to events, went to WrestleMania last year. So this one, I am pumped to, not anything he does. I mean, the Keith Pelly was good, but this one's going to be good. Adam Copeland, Edge, the rated R superstar, getting up close with our buddy and our guest, Stephen Brunt. Stephen, how we doing, pal?
Hey, Boom. How you doing? Good awesome. To see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for, again, the credibility and smarts and brains and intelligence.
Always. To talk about wrestling. Perfect. That's right. It all goes together, right?
Yeah. So now, we asked you last time you were on about the list of guests that you were going to have and all that. So, do you have a relationship with Edge? Or you didn't strike me necessarily as maybe being a wrestling guy. Edge is a great guy. Anybody that meets him, and I've been lucky enough a couple of times to meet the guy. How did this one come to be?
I didn't have a pre-existing relationship with him, but I am kind of fascinated by wrestling and always have been since I was a kid. And that, especially kind of the inner workings of it, pull back the curtain stuff, I think is really cool. But I know, we know people in common. Let's put it that way. And several people come up to me and said, like, he's an amazing guy. He's a really good dude. He's really smart. He's an insane hockey fan, big sports fan, and thought it would be a fun conversation. So we went down to Crew, went down to his house. He lives in Asheville, North Carolina, which is where the horrible hurricane rolled through last year. And when we were down there, like, they're still kind of digging out from that. But I've never been there before. Amazing town, like the kind of the best of America. A very funky little place. And hung out with him for most of a day up at his house up in the hills, and his wife's there and his kids were there, and couldn't have been friendlier and more welcoming to us, and sat down for this conversation, which, like, the what you'll hear on the podcast is pretty much untouched, unedited. It's not short, but that's because it was it just kind of kept rolling, and we really hit it off.
Yeah, it is the behind the curtain stuff that is just commonplace now. There's the kayfabe stuff for people that don't. If you were a villain, a heel, or a baby face, a fan favorite, you couldn't be seen traveling together. You couldn't have dinner together. All of that is gone. And I don't know exactly when it started. They talk about the curtain call when Nash and Hall were leaving for WCW, and then Hunter and Shawn Michaels, they had a big hug in the middle of the ring after they had a big kind of a cage match. It's like, wait a minute. So are they friends?
How?
That's
mortal enemies.
So that kind of blew the lid off of things. I'm almost more fascinated by it now, with it being wide open, and they're not trying to insult anyone's intelligence. I know, as Triple H had on the intro the other day, but wrestling it's massive right now, Steve.
It is cyclical, right? It kind of rises and falls, but we're definitely on another rise. There's no question. And yeah, the kayfabe thing, kind of post kayfabe, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that changed it, I remember that the former WWF, now WWE, was in a court case in the States, and they had to, I think it was an antitrust, and they had to go to court and say, we're not a sport. We are entertainment. This is scripted. We are not a sport. So they actually had to declare that under oath at some point, which kind of, that's another thing that kind of threw the whole kayfabe thing. It's not, we're acknowledging this isn't real. I remember in the ads in Toronto anyway, it always said an exhibition of skill and science. That's what always said at the bottom of the ad, which is true, right? It is an exhibition of skill and science. But I'm with you. The fact that these guys can kind of talk about the craft of it now, like talking about to Adam about how you draw heat, and what how you make a crowd hate you, and what it feels like, or love you, and what it feels like if you walk out into an arena, they play your music and you walk out, and when you're succeeding because you get that immediate whatever it's going to be, that emotion from the crowd. And he's a big music guy, so we talked a lot about that too. But he said it's I guess the closest thing to be a rock star, right? Where you walk out on stage and there's thousands of people going nuts just from your appearance. Like, it must be an astounding feeling. And he talked about that, about creating the character, creating, he's had involvement in his own storylines, kind of building to certain moments. He just had a big comeback in AEW, I think on December 28th. He has a surprise comeback from an injury. And again, the music plays, the lights drop. Holy smokes, who is it? And what that feels like. And he described that in a way that I've never heard anybody describe it before.
It's another one of those things where I sincerely feel like if you don't even like wrestling, his story is one that you're just going to be captivated by. There's so many neat things, and I don't want to, no spoilers, but there's a clip here that we're going to show about how, because as a kid, he's in Toronto, he's going to as many matches as he can. His mom is trying to get him tickets and that sort of thing. And he has an encounter with Bret Hart, which really kind of sets things off for him, which is, again, crazy. Here's the clip.
He opened that door a crack, and that's all you can do for someone. You can't open it fully for them. You can't, because then they don't earn it. Then they don't, you can open it a crack, and hey, if you can kick the door off the hinges, that's now on you. And that's what he did for me. It's some kid from Toronto who went and saw him in the Deanie Petty show, the horrible mullet. And he took the time after to come find me. And that to me just spoke to what Bret is as a person.
Goes to Deanie Petty. I'm guessing he had no interest in the other guests or topics that they were talking about that particular day. But yeah, Bret Hart is there, and he makes a connection with this kid. And then the next thing you know, he's coming out to Calgary, and he's training in the dungeon, and so on and so on. It's an amazing, that one, you wonder truly about the little touch points in life. If he doesn't connect with Bret, how different is his life? Yeah, I honestly believe that it's a different story.
Oh yeah, like there's it's like there's a bunch of stuff with him that's kind of fairy tale stuff. So he grew up in Orangeville, which is a little town northwest of Toronto. Single mother, no money, like didn't have enough money to play hockey. His mom didn't have enough money to put him into hockey, so he never played minor hockey. He's crazy hockey nut, but never played the sport. Gets hooked on wrestling, watching it on TV. His mom finds the money to take him down to Maple Leaf Gardens to see the old house shows that used to have on Sunday nights. Hanging out by the stage door effectively at Maple Leaf Gardens, waiting for the wrestlers to come out. Getting autographs, trying to talk to them about how you become a wrestler and all this stuff. He won a contest. There was this is that kind of stuff. There used to be a guy in Toronto who, and I think you guys had it. I don't know if Ed actually did. Ed Whalen ever write for the paper, because they had a guy in Toronto who wrote wrestling like it was, like covered it,
right? Yeah,
covered wrestling, right? And they had a contest, right? And the prize was that you got a lesson at the Sweet Daddy Siki wrestling school in Toronto. And he had write an essay, and he won the prize. So he ended up, with the great Sweet Daddy Siki, who just died a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Didn't he just pass? Yeah,
he did. Yeah, what a crazy, character in a lot of ways, Sweet Daddy Siki. And the other part of it is, he's in Orangeville. He's in grade school. A new kid shows up in class who's kind of shy, and they don't like each other at first, and then they start hanging out, and they realize they both like wrestling. They both watch wrestling on TV. And that guy ends up being Christian, his tag team partner.
Yeah.
They're still, who are still connected, right, in AEW. So, two kids in a town of 10,000 people in those days, probably, no money, no kind of insider track. And, Copeland's had a long career. He's, he was injured. He was out of the sport for a while, did a bunch of movies, though. He's been, semi-successful in the movie business, unlike, like some guys saying Cena's had a good run, and Hogan made some movies, and obviously The Rock, but did okay in that world, and then came back. And, he's in the last, I think he thinks he's got 2 years left, and that his body has 2 years left. So he's kind of trying to decide how you script those last 2 years.
Yeah. If anybody, the stuff that he and Christian did, well, you'll remember they came in as the Brood with Gangrel. You remember that? Yeah.
Brood, remember Christian.
But it's hard to make a mark when you're a newcomer. It's how do you kind of grab people? And they were called the Brood, and the one guy, the Gangrel, had fangs, and it was like blood and stuff. It was instant. there was no worry about them. It's like, did you see? Yes, I saw them, and everything worked for him, man. There's the video of him at Sky Dome watching WrestleMania, watching Hogan, and he's in the crowd, and you see him. And then years later, he's fighting Hogan. It's a crazy, crazy story. I can't wait to
now I remember
to dig into all of this. He talks with you a little bit about Vince McMahon, who is still involved, but really not involved. He has shares in the company, but there's been so much that's happened with him, and if I'm sure people know, it's not gone well for him financially. He's set, of course, but there's people who love Vince for what he does within the business. There's people who hate Vince for the guy that he is. Without spoiling it, I guess, does he kind of get into a little bit of his workings with Vince McMahon?
Yeah, he does, and I would say he, and then again, not saying he's an apologist for some of the horrible stuff that Vince has done, because there's, you watch the documentary, read the book, like it's all there, right? But I would say he respects Vince, in terms of the business. Like there's no super hard feelings or anything. I think he's loving working in AEW right now for Tony Khan, which kind of really enjoying that part of his career. But yeah, he's not a guy that's has a huge axe to grind with Vince. I think there's some other guys in that promotion he maybe doesn't like that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not, it's not like it was when Brett, after the screw job and all that stuff. And although even Brett kind of reconciled with Vince, right? So I don't know. Wrestling's funny, right? Like it's sort of like the in-ring part, right? That you can be blood enemies one day, and the next day you're tag team partners, right? Like it's everybody kind of seems to find a way to work together, even if they don't like each other.
Well, that's awesome. You know what? And it was neat for me. I took my kid to it was the Raw, I think SmackDown, that was here last year, and he actually came back. Edge had been gone. There was no reason to expect him to be here, and he was kind of teeing up his last match against Sheamus that was going to be in Toronto, and he got the biggest pop, as they say. He got the biggest pop of the night for a guy that no one was expecting to be there, and has got plenty of miles on him. So he's still a beloved guy. And those matches that he and Christian did with the tables, ladders, and chairs, a lot of what they did changed how those matches were done. They were up for anything.
Yeah, the only thing, I got to say, the only thing he's a little squeamish about is the what do they call that era? The more X-rated era of WWE, right? There was some stuff that he did, in character, that
The Attitude Era.
Attitude Era, yeah, that I think he would rather his daughters not see.
Yeah, he and Lita, there was some stuff that was.
Across
he was the rated R superstar,
and the personal and professional crossed over a little bit, I believe. Yeah, so yeah, there's a little bit of stuff there that I think you'd rather was buried in the vault. But man, it's an incredible run, like top to bottom. You think about how long the guy's been around, and the different eras of wrestling, in which he thrived, from the kind of PG stuff to the attitude stuff to and again in this new this newer circuit in AEW, which has got a kind of a different vibe to it as well. He doesn't own Edge, like I think WWE owns the name Edge, so he is not Edge anymore. But yeah, he is. He's had an incredible run. He's beaten himself up physically, and it's funny. Like you stand next to him, you think these guys are monsters. He's not a huge guy. He's not. He's kind of normal, kind of a normal sized guy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he's in good shape.
Oh yeah,
but he's not a behemoth, I guess.
No.
So what are we? Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Sergeant Slaughter. What's next for up close on your circuit?
Well, if somebody would give me Mick Foley, I'd do that one in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
that'd be a great conversation. Yeah, but these guys, Copeland's he's writing another book. Like he wrote a book. And like he's a guy who writes his own books, and he reads a book a week. Like I walked in, his library in his house there is like walls and walls, all kinds of stuff too, like really eclectic. It's he reads a ton, and obsesses over the Toronto Maple Leafs, which I can't explain.
It's tough. It's the one.
It's a sickness.
Yeah,
everybody's got something, right? Nothing's ever 100%. It's like, oh, you're a Leaf guy, eh? We were doing so well. It's going so well to that point. Well, it's very cool, man. How happy are you with how your two in? Keith Pelly kicked things off. Now you got Edge. More to come. Where are you in the process of recording and getting them done and researching guests? And are you happy with how it's been coming out?
Yeah, I am. I think it's been great fun. I love the folks I'm working with. And they're committed to doing this right. And you can see we're traveling. The video part of it is awesome. Really, really first class. And we're kind of right dead in the middle of it. So we've got 4 more to come. They'll all land between now and the middle of February, I guess. But before the Four Nations hockey, I think that's kind of our deadline to get them all in before that. And then we'll see where it goes. Like I love doing it. So I hope that it's beyond these 6 that we can continue. And like it's great because I can literally talk to anybody. It's kind of like what would be fun, what would be interesting. We're not pigeonholed in any way, and I love that.
I said it last time. It's perfect for what you do. There's no time constraints. Oh, this is so good. Well, we got to trim something to get it for air. No, if it deserves to be in, it's in. You can find it it's going to be on the Leafs Nation YouTube, and then of course for your ear holes wherever you get your ear hole podcast type stuff. I guess aside from that, I'll just ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Rhett and I are not super jacked up about the Four Nations, but it could be that we're a little curmudgeon's going to curmudgeon. What's the vibe out there?
That's a really good question. I think it's been so long since there was an international, World Juniors aside, which is kind of its own thing, right? But since there was a best on best tournament where everybody thought, boy, this is there's the World Cup of Hockey thing is, it never really settled, right? The format never settled, the teams never really settled. It never felt like it didn't feel like a continuation of the Canada Cup and they've been out of the Olympics for a long time. So I think we're all kind of out of practice and maybe also a little skeptical of, it's the middle of the season, everybody's in shape. There's going to be some amazing players there. You can kind of the lines, Canada's first 3 lines are going to be ridiculous. The Americans are going to be really good. The other thing is, I think not having the Russians there, and again, I don't think the Russians should be there, believe me, but not having the Russians there kind of changes it for me. I don't know about you guys. So it's best on best, but no Russians. Yeah. I hope it's great. I think the hockey will be really, really good, but will it have that kind of Olympic vibe or Canada Cup vibe or it's hard to recreate that.
I don't think so.
And I think I kind of, that's kind of where I'm heading here. I think it's going to be, I think people will be kind of look at it, from a distance and kind of say, wow, this is really good and really fast and really skilled. But is it going to get your heart beating like those tournaments? We'll see. Again, maybe that'll happen in,
you're going to need some sort of trigger to make it that way though, right? Something has to happen in these games because Pinder will argue this, and I guess it's just my opinion and yours, being the curmudgeons that we are, but it's not circled on my calendar. If I'm on my couch and I'm around, it's going on.
Ryan's thinking is you have to start somewhere, and maybe it'll build and grow. I wonder how much of it is too that maybe there's a little apprehension or people. Our goaltending isn't very good. We could get
but there's also not just the goaltending. I think there's apprehension about Hockey Canada.
Yeah.
That's adding to some disdain for this.
Which is weird when you can have, Connor McDavid and
but it's not about that. It's not about the players that Team Canada has. It's about how Team Canada has conducted business and performed in the World Juniors last year and the year before, and how they've it's a deep ingrained, because when I'm at the rinks with young kids and I'm hearing parents that have nothing to do with Hockey Canada, but their comments are all the same. There's an arrogance to Hockey Canada. There's a give us your money to Hockey Canada, and there's a dislike for it, to be quite honest.
I'll tell you, I felt that creeping in watching the World Juniors the last 2 years personally, because that is so much a Hockey Canada production, right? That's their soundstage, right? And it's all about the kind of the greatness of Hockey Canada in a lot of ways is the subtext of that tournament. And I find that tournament a little harder to stomach now just because of that, the background music playing, thinking, oh yeah, those guys. Yeah. Who are selling, virtue and flag waving and all of this wonderful stuff for a profit. They're not that great. So yeah, but it's interesting that's out there in the community. And this one, yeah, I think, I guess the thing is that it's also, is it going to feel kind of authentic? And that's again a weird word, because what's authentic at this stage?
Olympics are authentic to a certain extent, only not because of how the Olympics operate. I think, again, we all have our eyes wide open to what the Olympics are, but it's still, I argued with Pinder, but I will watch pole vault because it's the Olympics.
Yeah.
Right? There's an aura to the Olympics and going after that gold medal and being part of the Olympic tradition. There's none of that with what we're going to watch.
Well, yeah, and even though the IOC are, horrible people and all of that stuff, we can kind of suspend disbelief, right? And you kind of, and you get sucked into it. I did last summer again. I watched hours and hours and hours from Paris because, for the same reason, right? And this feels kind of like, I don't know, made for TV.
It's like manufactured.
And the Olympics is manufactured too, but
there's a history.
Yeah. So, I think it's the hockey. Look, and the best case scenario is that Canada is in peril, right?
Yeah.
Like that, you need Canada. Like maybe not. Maybe you need them to lose, but you definitely need the sense that this is not just a cakewalk.
The Canadians need to be down to garner some sort of.
Well, that will bring out emotion, right?
Yes.
Well, and the tradition of Canadian hockey we've always been really, really good and had talented players. But what set us apart? What did Grapes used to say, and we all used to believe in? We had the heart. There's going to have to be some rallying or showing of heart and overcoming the obstacle, because that's supposed to be what Hockey Canada is.
Yeah, and again, if you think of the classic hockey moments internationally, going back to, God knows, the Trail Smoke Eaters maybe, but certainly going back to 72, that's the narrative, right? It's not like in Sochi where Canada just rolled everybody.
No,
like nobody remember anything about that tournament? I don't. It's that moment where they've got to, Phil Esposito gets up and makes the speech, and they got to, nobody believes in them, and then or Gretzky goes and has a press conference in Salt Lake and says they're all against us, and and then the good Canadian boys rally and dig deep because they're Canadian and they've got something that the other guys don't have. Like, that's our national story, right? And yeah, maybe. And I'll tell you one thing: if the Americans are the bad guys, they're going to make really good bad guys at this point in history. Like, this is a good time, for them to be the other.
Political,
yeah.
And this could be the last year of it, because we're going to lose another team when we become American. We're just melting.
Well, they're going to take our country and make it a state. They're going to take our sport now, and it's tough.
We're going to have to give up a lot
to watch. No, I feel like if it's adversity that the Canadians are going to need, I think they're going to get it.
They might get it in spades.
Yeah, I kind of think so too.
I'm happy to have you on the show as always.
Please come back tomorrow.
What are you doing Friday? So I mean, is this kind of your full? You got a book on the go, or is this kind of your full focus right now?
Yeah, I have a book on the go. It's kind of a long-termy thing though. So yeah, I'm not talking about it even to my wife yet until I feel a little more comfortable with it. But someday there'll be a book if I finish it.
Now, Edge didn't need any help with his book, did he?
I don't think he needs any help. I'd love that, man, but I don't think he needs any help from me.
Yeah. I mean, still.
You've
written a number of books.
I have.
They're very good. It is Up Close with Stephen Brunt and Adam Copeland, Edge, the Rated R superstar. Get a listen to it. Get a watch. I'm pumped for it. I'm pumped for you to have you just doing what you should be doing. Appreciate your time, buddy. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah, thanks, boys. Good seeing you.
See you guys.
Hey, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long-form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And, of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.